I first agreed to preach, I actually had no idea what the reasons were. I just thought it might be a good opportunity to get up here and share my faith with all of you. Then I sat down to read them, especially the Gospel of Matthew, and I thought, well, this is kind of ironic. I have to preach about worrying, and I am one of the most intense, high-strung people I know. I'm the farthest thing from carefree. In fact, I was even worrying about having to talk about worry to people. I wrestled with this for a long time, and I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I asked God, what gives me the right to preach? And am I even worthy of this? Because I struggled with this myself, so what gives me the right to come up here and talk to all of you about this? And after a while, I realized that I don't know if I'm worthy to be up here and talking to all of you, but what I do know is that God tends to work in crazy, mysterious, sometimes even twisted ways. Maybe this was one of them. I also know what it's like to be on the other side of the preacher or the person saying, don't worry, everything's going to turn out great. So I can't, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that you should just stop worrying because it's a sin. Everything's great with God, just like the lilies of the field and the birds in the sky. I can't tell you that tonight. But what I can tell you is that throughout these times where we don't feel like everything is so perfect, there's always hope, and there's always a meaning behind them because God has a plan for us. 2 years ago, I was sitting in this sanctuary for Thanksgiving service, somewhere like way in the back, trying not to be seen by anybody. I don't really remember a single thing that was said or sung. I heard the scriptures and the lesson, but I wasn't really listening. Not with my heart, at least. To me, what was said from the Bible and what people had to talk about with their faith, it was all just words back then. And for me, words weren't really important at the time. Numbers were important. And I mean scores in school and grades and anything that would validate who I thought that I had to be. So that really began to define who I was, and I trapped myself into this idea that I had to be perfect and prove to everybody around me and to myself that that was who I was. And so I was in a really dark place, both emotionally and spiritually. I was really depressed, and I was recently diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And 2 Thanksgivings ago, I couldn't see a reason to be alive, much less a reason to be thankful. I cried out to God every day on the floor of my bedroom, asking why He would do this to me. How could He just sit back and watch me fall apart like this and not do anything about it? What kind of loving God would do that? I felt like I was getting disconnected though, like He didn't care enough to answer. So I just stopped asking Him and I stopped listening. But throughout everything, my mom was always there. And she tried to take all my worries on herself, thinking that it would somehow fix everything for me. And I know that she did this because she loves me unconditionally. She would sacrifice anything for my happiness, my health, and my safety. Any parent would. And I think a lot of us know that, and a lot of us are thankful today for those people like our parents in our lives. What so many of us, though, fail to see is that God would do the same for us because He is our Father. And the love that He has for us is even greater than the love of any parent. It's unfathomable, it's indescribable, and it's undeserved because we haven't done anything to earn it. And He doesn't just leave us when we feel like we're alone. He holds our hand when we feel like we're lost. And when we're crying on the floor in our bedroom, He's there crying with us. He cheers for us when we accomplish something great, and He laughs with us when we're experiencing the joys that life has to offer. Sometimes we're all like impatient little kids who want to know why things happen. Why loved ones have to die, why people have to get sick, why relationships become broken, why there's so much pain. And like kids, we sometimes think that our Father's answer is, because I said so. But it's not. It never is. He always gives us an answer. Though it might not be in the form of an angel coming down on a cloud, it's there. And while I was ourselves, but in the form of the people around us. And for me, I was lucky to have my mom. She was there for me. She showed me that God has a plan for me, to prosper me and not to harm me. But it doesn't have to be a mom or a parent. It can be anyone. It can be a grandparent, an uncle, a teacher, a second cousin twice removed from your father's side, anyone. I don't believe that Jesus is telling us not to worry because he's mad at us or because he's jealous that we put a lot of our effort and our time into earthly things. I don't think it's because he needs us either. I think it's because he wants us. And because he wants us to know that we need him. And that nothing on this earth, no temporary thing, can ever compare to God's eternal kingdom in heaven. He wants us to know that worrying can be debilitating. It can paralyze us in fear. It can destroy everything that God intends for us to be. But above all, it can destroy our faith. Jesus doesn't expect us to be emotionless, detached robots that don't react to anything around us that hurts us. He simply doesn't want us to be robbed of the joys of life that God intends for us to have. Now, I'm thankful for the life that I have now. Compared to 2 years ago, it's a walk in the park, but I'm also so thankful for the life that I had 2 years ago. Even all the anxiety and worry that I experienced, because even though I know what it truly is now, to be sad and to hurt, I also know what it's truly like to be happy, and to come out on the other side stronger and more faithful to God. And I know that life isn't always easier because we believe in God. It's not always like the lilies of the field or the birds in the air. It's a lot harder, but I do also know that with God, it's a lot more meaningful.